Okay, well, welcome to Coffee Talk, and I'm here with my friend Glenyce. Hey, how's it going?
Oh, it's so good. I'm so happy to be here. Coffee talk. I have my coffee. I don't know if you can read that or not,
Don't
but
be a cuntosaurus. I love that's hysterical.
sometimes it's like note to self.
Where does one find a mug like that?
Yes, yes. It was a random store in downtown Edmonton that I came across it, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, that is for me."
That's so funny. Sometimes you wonder, like, can they actually print stuff like that? But I guess so.
I believe as long as the Saurus at the end of it, I think is probably what makes it. I mean, I think you can sell anything, but that sort of a store open to kids and all of that, I think they have the Saurus at the end for a reason.
I love it. Yeah, well, I had my coffee and I'm on to coconut water. It's my favorite thing these days. I don't know. Have you ever tried it?
I don't think I have. And did that look pink, or is that the color of your cup?
It's my glass. It's a blush pink with a little gold rim. The elegance and princess comes out in all places.
Speaking about receiving, yes.
Yes. So we have a cool topic today. What did I say? How much are you receiving that you haven't been acknowledging? And it can really blow your mind. So just to back up, because before we went live, I was sharing this quote from Gary Douglas, founder of Access, and he was saying that receiving is easy. It's like go outside and feel the sun in your face. That's receiving. And we can think of that and go, yeah, sure. But how much are you also receiving everybody else's thoughts, everybody's upsets, everybody's, pain, suffering, etc., and not acknowledging that?
Yeah. And it's such an interesting area because on one hand, and I know for myself anyway, I can speak from experience, it's like this attempt to push it away, like I don't want to receive, I don't want to know that, I don't want to all that stuff. And so there's this kind of tug of war of like pushing it away, but also receiving it, of course, and then acting it out as though it's mine, and then judging myself because of whatever crazy. And it's just this insanity where really, I mean, if we didn't judge what we were receiving, then it would be like the sunshine on our face for those of us who love the sunshine on our face. Like that's such a it's such a it's such an interesting space. My husband's away right now, and what I noticed is that when I like physically get out of a chair or something like that, I don't feel as contracted as I did. And it's the only reason that I would say I probably even noticed the difference is because for a while in the last few weeks, I was like, good grief, what's going on that this feels like it's such a, I'm 110 years old or something like that. And so, these last few days, I haven't had that. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And it's like, oh, right. How much was I receiving his choice of that and then making it mine and acting it out and, asking my body basically to act it out too. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And they say that in Access that like 99,000% of your thoughts, feelings, and emotions aren't yours. But, we keep going back to buying them as ours. Because, people talk about asking to increase their receiving, and what they're really saying is they want more money. And so they receive more pain, upset, trauma, drama, all kinds of stuff. And then they go, no, I don't want that. And so it's like, if we were willing to just be like, wow, that's interesting. Who does that belong to? That's not my reality. It's not light. Then the money would show up.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we like go, no, stop.
Yeah, it's way more valuable to play with it as though it's ours for some crazy, choice on our behalf, really. I mean, the amount the amount of space really that we could be and have and actualize whatever it is we would like from there. I mean, wow. Yeah. Yeah.
One of the things that was pretty illuminating, I was in Paris for the Talk to the Entities Summit, and Shannon was showing this painting, this famous painting of, I can't remember the name of it, of course, and it had 3 panels. It was a triptych. One was hell, one was just earth, and then one was heaven on earth. And in the hell, there was all this pain and suffering. In the middle, there was like, I don't know, circus and all this stuff going on. And over on the other side, where it was heaven, it was peaceful and there was hardly anything going on. And she said, ease, joy, and glory can be a little bit boring, if you don't like peace. And I remember studying art in college and looking at that painting and liking the one that was empty with peace. Like, I just didn't like the other stuff. It was too much commotion in both of them. And I've always been drawn to that. So like, what have you been drawn to? Do you allow the peace in the space, or do you think it's boring and so you have to create some trauma drama or circus entertainment?
I like that, circus entertainment. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I know personally, like prior to starting to use the tools with Access, like 11 plus years ago, it really was not even recognizing the third painting was an option, just the first 2 and mostly the very first one. And then starting to get the sense once I started using the tools and recognizing that, I mean, really the infinite choice part, like really there's a choice. Which one do you want to be in? And not even just one do you want to be in, but what one do you want to be in every 10 seconds? Like you get to choose, and none of them are right or wrong. But that's the third one, the peace, the space. It's so much more noticeable to me when it's not that. And that's interesting. And not always, sometimes it takes me a little while to recognize, oh, wow, there I was playing over there. But it's so just using these tools. And for me, I would say interesting point of view would be the tool that has got me to the third painting more and more often and quicker than probably any other tool, although it's hard to put them into, this one's better. It's not that, it's just that it's one that can really contribute to the piece.
Yeah. It's amazing how different, interesting point of view is starting to show up, and like, I don't know, in deeper and deeper ways. Because when you first learn it, you only apply it to certain things. Not the good stuff.
Well, it's funny that you say that though, Julie, because I'm just doing a book club right now on the 10 keys. And so taking a month each chapter, because I mean, you could probably take a year. I know I could take a year on each chapter, but we're doing a month. And so last month was interesting point of view. And again, 11 years using these tools pretty much every day, all day. And I read in there when Gary says, actually use interesting point of view on everything, like not just the stuff you want different. And I was like, oh, I get it now. Where I never really used it on any of that. It was always just the stuff that I wasn't happy with or turning out the way I didn't want it to. I had points of views about, obviously, but not the, swimming in my pool or enjoying the sunshine or all those things that I'd already also attached points of views to.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Space and easy. And I also find that it's easier to facilitate somebody else. So like if I'm going through something, I almost have to talk to myself like I'm somebody else. Like, okay, is this real?
Yes.
What tool are you using here? And I go, oh shit, yeah. This isn't light. It's not my reality.
Yes. And that's such you've said it now a couple times, and it's something I just, for people watching, I just want them to really be aware of that tool in of itself. It's light, or it's not light, it's not mine. Now, for everybody watching, I know some of you will say, well, I don't get light and heavy, and I get that. So, there's other ways it can be more of a knowing for you, or whatever it is, but contractive, whatever it is for you, just start paying attention to that. Because the biggest lie, I would say, on the planet is that heaviness is ours, and it's heavy because we're wrong, or we're bad, or whatever happened shouldn't have happened, or all the stories we've attached to it, when really what's actually true is it's heavy because it's lie. It's not true. There's something about it we've attached. There's a story, there's something there. And so if that was the only tool we use, just to start recognizing when things were heavy or contractive, or we just knew it was icky, whatever it is, it's not ours, it's not real, it's not true. So what else could you choose in that moment, rather than playing with it as though it's yours, as though that's somehow going to change it? Because it isn't. It's just going to make it more real in your world, really.
Yeah. And so if we're asking to increase our receiving, and we're running bars, which increases your receiving, you're going to be aware of the heavy energy, because so many other people on the planet are choosing it and creating it. So waking up every day, if you still feel heavy, it's not because that's you, it's just because you're aware. And you could go, okay, well, where's my reality? What is my reality?
Yeah.
And go about your day from that.
Yeah. Yes. I love that. And I actually put it as a reminder in my phone a week ago. I heard, I don't even know what class I was listening to, whatever. I believe it was Simone who was talking, but she was talking about it as something Gary had told her, in terms of like, start asking, what is my, say my reality with money, and where do I find it? Or even just, what is my reality and where do I find it? And just asking that without looking for an answer, of course, and it'll just start to show up. You'll start to become aware of it. And I love that, especially first thing in the morning, because it can for a lot of people, they wake up, of course, in so many other people's realities, and can really feel like you said, it's not even close to your reality, but you make it so.
Yeah. Just when you said that, that reminded me, like, how many of us are in other people's realities trying to change their realities so that we wake up and we don't perceive that heaviness? So let's talk and pod. Wherever we decided that was a great idea.
Yes. Oh.
Pod Poc, all nine shorts, boys, povads, and beyonds. Wow.
Yeah.
I think I've been doing that a bit.
Yeah, maybe me too. Yeah. And it really goes back to that interesting point of view. And I mean, the receiving, because if we were willing to receive it without a point of view, we wouldn't try to change it. It'd be like, oh, cool, that's what they're choosing. Awesome. Okay, what would I like to choose? Like, I mean, I make it sound so simple, and it is so simple. And it's just remembering that, or choosing that in the moment, and recognizing that what other people are choosing is their choice. And what we think they should choose isn't better or right. It just is an interesting point of view on our part, because it's their choices, yet we have all this sort of crazy. So yeah.
And like the 3 panels on the painting all exist on one painting, and like, everybody's reality can exist here, and it doesn't mean that you need to choose it. Doesn't mean that any of them are right or wrong. You can go between the panels and do whatever you like by choice.
Yeah.
Instead of having to change the whole thing to the piece. That's probably what I was trying to change, the whole thing to piece, because I don't really want to be aware of that other stuff. Instead of like, wow, they're choosing that. Okay, what am I choosing?
Yes. Yeah. That idea that I remember years ago, I had a visual. I'm quite visual, and I had this visual of like, I would only go so far in what I was choosing in, say, consciousness or stuff like that. I would only go so far, and then I would physically turn around and pull everybody with me. And I just heard that's always stayed with me, because it's like, one, that's exhausting. Two, I'm just being a superior bitch of magnitude, thinking that they should be with me, that somehow what I'm choosing is greater than what, like, it's insane. And it also very, very, very slows me down. So, just that energy that we have to wait for them, or we have to change them, or we can't do anything until they do whatever. And it's like, what if we can? And what if, like you say, that painting exists, all of those choices are available. So if somebody else is choosing something different than you're choosing, what if that's okay? Like, that's their choice.
Such a relief. And I mean, how many of you like it when somebody else is dragging you to do something that they just know is so good for you? I remember being a teenager and my mom saying, "Oh, this movie is so great. You have to go see it. You have to, you have to." And she said it so many times, I never went and saw it. And it was just a movie. Like that, that humanoid, like, I'm not going to do what you tell me to do.
Yes. Yes. We were talking about it at a recent bars class, and this gal's like, "I've been trying to force the Kool-Aid to my family for years. Those buggers won't drink it." It's like, you're right.
Yeah. It works better to say you can't have this.
It does. Or just go create the magical life, and then they'll get interested. That's been my experience of, like, no, don't try to tell them anything. Don't share anything. Be quiet. Go create your magical life. And they'll be like, "Hey, what are you doing? What's happening? How can I do that?" Yeah. 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 And so what tool or tools do you use if you recognize you're not receiving something, or if you're resisting receiving something?
Well, my favorite go-to tool is the expanding exercise. Because when you expand, it eliminates all the barriers. It eliminates all the points of view. It pretty much takes care of everything.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people get stuck in, this, like, "Well, I can't expand. I'm trying to expand, but I can't." So, like, I practice it all the time, and I do weekly expanding after coffee talk every Monday. And it seems like when you do it in a group, it's easier.
Cool.
So that's my go-to tool.
I love that.
Besides interesting point of view or whatever. How about you?
Definitely the expanding, definitely. And sometimes I'll kind of play with it. Like, if it's, let's say somebody's angry, and I could just, I can perceive that I'm not receiving it, or I'm resisting it, or whatever. I'll expand, and then I'll really get a sense of that energy and just be present with it. Like, it's kind of like, I guess, an interesting point of view. Like, so I get present with it so that I don't have a point of view about it, and I can just allow it, I guess, is basically the best word for it. But definitely the expanding, that's a huge one, and has been for so many areas of my life. I mean, I would last 20 minutes at a mall prior to expanding out, because I would just go in, and didn't even realize it, of course, but I would just go in so contracted, trying to protect myself and all of the stuff. And then it would just be, I just felt like I was physically beaten every time I walked into a public place like that. So yeah, so the expanding out has allowed me to go shopping.
That's awesome. It's funny. Also being in the question and not going to conclusion. And that's been something it's been hardwired in by my parents, like super, super hardwired. So breaking that has been really challenging. But just yesterday, I went to the mall to return something that I bought, I don't know, a few months ago that I never wore. And I was like, I don't like this. I don't want it. And I brought it back, and the guy said, "Well, it's past the time limit that you can return it here. You have to bring it to somewhere else." And I just stood there. I'm like, "Really?" And he was like, "Well," I'm like, "Really?" No, I was like, "Wow, I don't really want to go somewhere else." And he's like, let me get the manager. I didn't even ask. And the manager said, I don't believe in rules. I'm going to override it. And he returned it. I was like, awesome. And I realized while I was standing there that I was actually being the energy of question. I didn't have to ask the question. I didn't have to argue or say anything. There was no force. I was willing to have any outcome. And that is a practice to get to that space. I'm not there all the time, but then I was. And that's the thing about acknowledging is, acknowledge and you'll have more of it.
Yes. I love that. I love that for so many energies that were there. And, keeping it with the receiving part, you were willing to receive the judgment of him saying, no, no, you must follow the rules, or, what are you doing? This is ridiculous, or, all that stuff. And you're just willing to receive it all without a point of view of, no, they need to take it back. They have to, all that stuff, and how that allowed the magic. That's, yeah, I love that. And then being the question. Absolutely. I mean, we talk in Access a lot about that. When we first start, we're asking questions all the time. And I mean, we still are, of course, all these years later, but there's also becomes where, like you say, that being of it. And it just, yeah, I love the magic. Yay.
More magic, please.
More magic, please. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Wow. There's such a space right now too. Isn't it nice? It's like, oh.
It seemed like when we talked about interesting point of view, it was like, whoosh.
Mhm.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And how many people make space wrong?
Yeah.
I remember many times growing up and I like peace. I like space. Just have, I don't know, I'm weird that way. And other people like to fill it in with chatter and stuff. And I would just sit there and just be. And I felt so boring. I was like, wow, I have nothing to say. I'm boring. And they're so uncomfortable with
Right.
me not saying anything. Wow. So
Oh,
that's receiving too, because you can perceive where somebody else is uncomfortable with the space.
yeah. 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 And it's receiving it. And then if we don't have a point of view about it, then we can allow them to have their choice with that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Shelly is on. She said, hi. Hi, Shelly.
Hi, Shelley.
Shelly in Vegas.
Oh, hi, Shelley. Yes.
Yeah. So what else? Anybody have questions? You can pop them in the chat. I know it's a little bit delayed, but or just receive this yummy energy.
Yeah. Yeah. There was a question I was asking later last year, and it was something around like receiving beyond what I'd been willing to receive. I believe it was Christopher Hughes that was talking about it on a call or something. And so I was like, oh, that's delicious. And then I did receive what I had never really been willing to receive before. And it was an energy, or some energies that were not like of the, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. It was kind of on the other part. But I didn't make it the drama trauma, because I recognized I'd been asking to receive. And of course, receiving is all of it, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And so it was some energies of, being the good girl and not getting in trouble and doing, not breaking rules and all of that. And it was really interesting, because I realized now as we're talking that I actually stopped asking that when that occurred. So it's time to start asking that again, because It really, I mean, by me receiving it to the degree I did, I can tell you I didn't receive it 1,000% that I could have, but to the degree that I did, which was way more than I'd ever been willing before, it really shifted and changed things. And so, but somewhere in there, I had obviously picked up or chose to slow it down a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so now with interesting point of view,
Yeah.
better sharpened, or I
Yes.
don't know, that
Yes.
tool, like sharpen that tool and try it again. Yeah. It's such a process, so many people, they get these tools, it works amazing, and then they're like, oh, I got it. And no, I'm sorry. This is a lifelong haul.
Yes.
Every time you get to the top of a mountain, you see another big peak, and you're like, really?
Yeah, yeah. In fact, I heard Gary, and I've always kept this in the back pocket, because he said Simone had said something like, "Oh, I finally got this tool," or something. He's like, "No, you're getting the tool."
Yeah.
He says you're always getting the tool, and I was like, "Oh God, isn't that true?" It sometimes feels like, "Oh my gosh, now I get that." Like, interesting point of view, and doing it on everything. It's like, "Oh wow, okay," but yeah, no, getting it. Getting it.
Yep. And it is not a sprint, it is a marathon.
So true.
Yeah. And I think it's getting easier. Like, things are shifting in the world so that it is getting easier. Yeah. 19 years ago, when I found Access, it was very different
Wow.
and so weird. And I was like, cool, I like this. I've been looking for this. But a lot of my friends that I introduced it to, like, they just went, "Phew, see ya."
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. All right.
All
That's
right.
great. 19 years, really. That's awesome. You were like near the beginning.
Nearer. Yeah.
Wow. That's cool.
But it is a journey. And how does it get better?
How does it? How does it?
There was something else, but I can't remember what I was going to say. So, did you have something?
I was just thinking when you were saying, like, it's getting easier. It's like, it's that, to me, it's that energy of when you do the group expansion, it's that energy, like there's more and more people choosing consciousness every day. And so it does whatever it's called, the monkey effect or whatever, where, it just, one person choosing more allows more of us to choose more, which allows more of us to choose more, et cetera, et cetera. So
Yeah.
yet I get how much of a contribution it is that
Yeah.
so many of us choosing it.
Yeah. It's like it starts off as this mental thing that you get and you understand, but then for it to sink into your system and to actually become your energy, and so that you be that in the world, it's just totally different. And like, how much are we already being in the world that we haven't been acknowledging?
Yeah.
The
So
acknowledgement piece, it's so big. And like, that has been made so wrong. Like, to say you're great, to say you did something, to say that you're getting something, or to say that you're a gift. Like,
yes.
like, that is so wrong.
Yeah.
Unless you're 3 years old.
That's right.
And then you can go, I pooped. And they're like, yay. But nobody claps for you anymore. If you're like, oh my God, I'm so magic. They're like, fuck off.
Yeah, exactly. It's so true. It's so true. Which is why we have to do it for ourselves. Because if we don't, we certainly can't wait for other people to do it. And yeah, it's a huge, huge piece.
So everybody acknowledge yourself. You can do it quietly to yourself. Acknowledge how much you are perceiving and receiving, and allow it to continue into receiving all the things that you'd really like to have. How does it get better?
Does it?
So cool. Well, thank you for coming on and having a chat. It was super
Well,
fun.
thanks for inviting me, Julie, and chatting about receiving. I love it. I love it. I love it. So because I'm very new to your group, so you go on in another Facebook Live and you do the expansion exercise after this. Is that what you mean?
Yes. Yes.
Cool.
It's,
Okay, so everybody stick around.
yeah, it's called Finding Your Sparkle. It's another public group, and
Okay.
it's where you will find your sparkle is in the expanding of your being. So
Love it. I love it. Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you, thank you, thank you. And yeah, hopefully see you in person someday soon.
sounds good.
Bye, Julie.
Take care. Bye, everybody.